Dumelang ko hae, lebitso ke Refiloe, a dating and relationship coach, bringing you Mjolo with Refiloe. Now, tonight we're talking about trauma and healing in relationships. We know mabati Mjolo uzokhurta. There are certain things that happen that can leave one feeling like they are not quite themselves. Now, I've got two beautiful ladies. Welcome to the show, Carol and Mpho.
Thank you.
Just so I can frame this conversation, what experiences do you have with deep hurt when it comes to relationships?
So in my case, I was married to a man who was physically, emotionally, and psychologically very abusive. So my first marriage is where I got a lot of trauma with relationships. Also because, we met when I was 19, when you just fresh from like high school, more importantly from a girls' school, and you meet this guy and he just sweeps you off your feet type of thing. So I ended up having to marry him, having a child with him. We lasted about 7 years in that marriage. And it really was, in my opinion, for the 5 years, the first 5 years were actually quite great, but the 2 years thereafter were really horrible. And I needed to, get to a point in my life where I start to establish for myself and say, is this what I want for me? And if I stay in this relationship, what does it say about me? And what does it do to my son at the time?
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
I think I could feel that it's coming from a deep place, but looking at how beautiful you are, and I see something on my table which we'll speak about later.
Yeah.
There are definitely lessons out of there, and I think the essence of my show is to, umjolo umnandi, yes, but because of how it affects your life, your life story, it's always to educate the viewer to say you do have a choice, in the matter. And I commend you for walking away from that situation, because a lot of people are looking up to women like you to find the courage to step away. And we are happy that we have you with us and you are safe. And Carol, what about you and your experience when it comes to deep-seated hurt in a relationship, do you mind sharing with us?
Wow. There was a time in my life where when I was in a relationship, which I thought it was a relationship, which also lasted like for a long time. Then you are this grown person, you were like in your late 20s or so, and then you enter into this relationship, you ended up being with this guy, and the next best thing, you give yourself your virtue and everything. So because you grew up in a Christian home, you keep yourself pure until you married and sober. Now you come to this age, and then you think, okay, this is the man for you and everything. So you trust. That's the next step now, right? You trust now to give your virtue in that. And now you give it over, and the next best thing, 2-3 days later, you get rejected. You get blocked on your social media and all of that. And now you become so... that was the most painful thing ever.
You internalize that because rejection is painful.
It's painful, the rejection. And at the end of the day, it gets so printed within your spirit that you can't think of anything else but this particular person, because now you've given yourself over, and the person don't want you back. And you were like, all your life you waited for this long. So for me, it took a while to break free from that, because at that time, that's all that I knew. And then that rejection will constantly flow. So it took about 5 years to get free from that, because I ended up meeting the same person, but in a
different body. Yes.
In a different body.
Yeah.
So one of the painful things that is rejection, and that part. So I had to literally, I thank God because I have God in my life, I had to pray for God to literally set me free from that. Because for me, that was traumatic. Imagine you're age 28, 29, getting on to age, you haven't been with anybody, and then now you decided to give your virtue over to this person because you thought that this is the person in it. And then boom, next 3 days later,
They don't want you.
They don't want you. That is the most painful thing ever that any person can go, a woman can go through. And it was very painful for me. Like, I would cry for
because it's
days.
something that happened in a short time, but to get back to yourself, it takes a huge chunk of your life and affects other relationships. I mean, Mpo spoke earlier about having a look at herself and how it's affecting her child. You know, in your dynamic, like friends and your family, you know, were they now being affected by the fact that you are still going through this thing, which is like, you know, like a sore inside of you, and relating made it that much harder?
With my family is that I wasn't very much talkative.
So you were isolating yourself.
I was isolating myself, but I thank God I have a very supportive family structure. My sisters, my youngest sister's into psychology, and that, so she's a specialist in it. So I was able to, you know, relay some of the things, and then she would just, you know, be able to talk me through it and that. And also I had a very supportive structure from friends. Like there was a lady that normally would pray me through, and she's like, no, don't worry, it will be okay. Because I mean, it dealt with me emotionally, physically, spiritually. Like it really tormented me, because now then the person reappears and then you go back. And that's what, and just, you know, so it became a back and forth in that, because a part of you is now locked into that, but yet it looked good, but it was not good. I was feeling like the rejection was, because it's all that I found.
It was festering.
It was festering and that. So for me, my family was very supportive, but I was a lot, because I didn't want...
Are you in a better place today?
I'm in a great space. Like literally, I'm literally teaching other people about, you know, how to handle, how to break free from it, even if not only from a physical perspective, but as well from a spiritual perspective. Because sometimes we can be moving away physically, but spiritually it can materialize again.
Stuck in the same place.
And then you come back physically at the same space. So I'm in a fantastic space right now.
I'm so happy. And then Mpo, because you spoke about your son, do you think there's enough conversation around the man or the boy child when it comes to readying them for relationships? Because, I mean, I come from a school where, you know, the woman, and then let the man do whatever he is, because obviously, I don't know, his gender is somewhat superior. You know, do you think we have the conversation enough? And, you know, what is Mpo doing to help the boy become a better man than, you know, what happened with you and his father?
I think culturally we don't necessarily have those conversations, and it's so important. And I think that's why we, in South Africa, you know, we are known as the capital for gender-based violence. Obviously, it's not something that any one of us is proud of, but I do believe that, you know, we need to get to a point where we start having those conversations. Men need to call, you know, another man if he is not doing the right thing with the wife or the girlfriend, for that matter. It has to start with the men, and at the same time, even us as mothers, like you saying that my boy, I'm teaching him, I'm having a very open conversation with him with regards to what took place in my marriage with his dad, because I don't want him to fall in the same trap.
Yes.
The reason I walked away when he was 2.5 years old is because I realized that my ex-husband has fallen into a cycle of abuse. So if you look back at his lineage, his mom was married to a man who was very abusive. He learned that behavior. He said, no, I'll never do that. And guess what happens? Now in our marriage, he was doing exactly the same thing.
It's not enough to say it.
It's not enough just to say it. So I got to a point where I looked at this whole trend and I said, if I don't stop it, then I should also expect that one day my son is going to come, or a woman is going to come and say, Neo is doing A, B, C, and D to me. Then I should be okay with it because I allowed him to grow up in that environment.
Hold it right there. Let's take a quick ad break. I really want to get to the nitty-gritty of this generational thing that happens when it comes to our men. Don't go away. Welcome back to Mjolo with Refiloe, a show that's in your love life, coming to you into your living room. Now, earlier, Mpho spoke about how she felt like it's her responsibility to teach her son about different ways of treating women or being a present husband that doesn't necessarily necessitate into you being abusive, being in that our country has a GBV spate. Now, ladies, talk to me a little bit more about how you moved away from a place where there was this hurt in your relationship or in your Mjolo at the time. I know people don't like to associate marriages in Mjolo, but it is the ultimate place we want to get to, in our Mjolo. And to get to a place where you are now and thriving and in a position to talk to us about it. Carol?
With me, healing is a process. One of the things that I always, because I mentor on healing as well, is that don't be too hard on yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself, but don't stay there.
So be in transit.
Be in transit. You know, you got to make a constant decision to say that I am worth it. You got to have a conversation with yourself. You got to say to yourself, who were you before you met the person? You were happy, you were excited, life was happening. And that's where you have to fetch yourself. I'm not going to say it's easy to fetch yourself, but the fact is that you made a constant decision. Now, I made a constant decision to say, you know what, I've lost like almost 5-6 years of my life in you, drowning into you. I've lost, but just being loving because I've been loving for you without me even knowing it. And the time when I made the constant decision, that's when things started to pick up for me. Because then I'm like, you know what? I'm a woman of valor. You know, there's nothing wrong patting yourself on the back to start saying, I'm a woman of valor, I'm a woman of power, I'm a woman of influence, I'm a woman of faith, and I'm a woman of God, and I stand for what I believe. Whether you like it or not, whether you're here or not, I am picking myself up and I'm moving forward. Yes, I'm broken, but I'm not going to stay broken forever.
I love that part. Not going to stay there, because you spoke about being in transit. Now, yes. Mpho, you went as far as writing a book about this experience, because I think, you get to a place, heal and come back, and then now you're like, that will not be my sister's story or my daughter's story going forward. Talk to us a little bit about the process of coming back.
It started with self-worth. I wouldn't have worked away from a relationship that was so toxic had I not had the self-worth that says, Mpho, you deserve better. So as a human being, I always say, whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, when you go into any relationship, you need to understand what you bring to the table. You need to understand what is the purpose of this relationship. It will help you to determine whether the course of that relationship has actually come to an end. And oftentimes we stay too long. It's ended, but we're still there. So for me, I understood that it has run its course. And yet at the same time, here is Mpho, still has so much life in her. He tried to kill me 3 times in the period that I was married to him. It's only on the 3rd time that I actually woke up to myself. And I started asking God, I said, why do you keep saving me? I was clearly not seeing what he had in store for me. And part of what he had in store for me was that I go through that process to help other women that are going through what we call gender-based violence in our society. So again, like you mentioned, I wrote this book. It's called Awakening to Truth. And in this book, I speak about the domestic violence that I actually experienced in my previous marriage, sexual harassment in the workplace, as well as body shaming. Not only do we talk about that in the book, but I also talk about the things that help me to actually overcome the bitterness, the angry, all the negative emotions that are associated with that. In fact, my career up until like maybe 2019, I was a corporate investment banker. And I swapped that to work in my purpose. And that's why I became a life coach, because I realized that bottom line is not what is really fulfilling at the end of the day. Working and just enriching the banks is not
touching
what is
lives
exactly. But touching lives, leaving a legacy where you are making a significant contribution to somebody's life is what truly inspires me to wake up every morning. To be able to say, has anybody, read my book, or can I touch somebody's life and change it? So in that whole process, when I was healing me, I didn't realize that I was actually healing so many other people. Does that make sense?
It does,
because
of people
through
who
the
are...
book itself,
Yes,
people are being healed from
yeah.
my story. They're able to tap into their own story and say, this is what Mpo did. I always say, turn your pain into power.
Powerful words there, turn your pain into power. The hurt happens and you cannot stop it from happening. But I want to talk about the responsibility to get better. Because we do get people that go through things and then they continue to spread the cancer or whatever that's happened that's not good. At what point did you find that, no, the healing journey and the becoming better and having a purpose, that responsibility is mine? At what point was it for you?
It was that period when I said the third time, when I started to actually question God. I had a conversation, a very deep conversation, because once again, only when you go within you will you find the answers. So I was looking for answers, I was looking for closure. I was asking, Lord, why me? And the answer was, why not you? Why not you? Why does it have to be somebody else? So oftentimes as human beings, we go through traumas, but instead of asking why me, ask what is this trauma presenting itself as something that I can actually turn into power. Because right now, through that whole experience, I look at challenges very differently. When I see something that is very challenging coming my way, I can already see how I'm going to actually summon this mountain. How I'm going to get even stronger, better, more powerful because of the situation that is now presenting itself as a challenge. So oftentimes it's a mindset, and that's why as a life coach, I went into this career, because I want to change people's mindset about the traumas that they have experienced. Many of us, we can speak about traumas in our childhood. We all have those. But oftentimes, how often does that happen that your childhood trauma still plays when you are 30, 40, because you haven't dealt with it?
You haven't taken the responsibility to turn it into a power. Okay.
Exactly.
Let's hold it right there. And after the break, we speak a whole lot more about what it means to now be a healed partner and how to pick yourself up to be a better partner to your newer relationship and those around you if you are still single. Don't go away. Welcome back to Mjolo with Refiloe. We're talking all things trauma as well as healing this evening. Now, I want to find out from you, Carol. Now you've gone through what you've gone through and you've embarked on this journey where you've been in transit, as you've spoken about, and being better. What has your experience done to you that's enriched you as a partner? Because from it, are you a better partner to your current person? Or, what is the situation there?
I can say I wouldn't say a better partner, because we learn every day. I remember there was a time where I would get so upset, and I'm learning to just know when to speak and when not to speak. Because once you find yourself, when something triggers you, then I realized no. That's still, so I was like, okay. So now in this case, I can say that I'm a better partner, but I'm still a partner that is learning. And you understand, because it's a new person.
Yes.
It's a new person. It's a new set of person. And everything.
You are still growing.
And I'm still growing. But the main goal is that, Lord, may I be the wife and not the knife. So while I'm in the process of being processed by you, allow me to, there's any more, I'm healed, but then sometimes something just pops up.
Yeah, of course.
So allow me to be and take responsibility for my actions. Take responsibility for the whatever is going on. So there was a time when I was like, ish. But then I started to, now I'm now calming down. There was a time it's like, I like it when you're so calm now, because I'm a very, I'm a straightforward, fireball person.
Yes.
So now I'm learning to calm down, because it's not an easy, because what happens when you are not healed, or when you become, there's this wall that you build Like either you do it right or you have that kind of thing. So now, and to let someone in, already that your persona just pops up. So now I've learned not to let my guard down, but just to ease on a way so that it can invite a different perspective. And that allows me to see a different part of myself, and which is like, is this really me? You know, so.
I love that, because it means you've really come full circle, and especially the part where you're saying you are still also growing. You know, you are not where you want to be.
Yes.
And Mpo, with you, I know, writing the book, and you eventually found love and happiness again. I want you to talk to the viewer that's saying, all right, if, you know, na lenyalo linkhaotikile in such a way that I never want to see myself in that position. I feel freer by myself. You know, what helped you get to a point where you believed it could get better the second time around?
So for every client that I actually have as a relationship coach, I always say to them, normalize healing as part of every day. So when you can make time, the same way you make coffee, the same way you go drive and, you know, do all sorts of things, go to a spa day, also make time for healing. Be deliberate about healing. The traumas in your life, the traumas regarding relationship, financial traumas, whatever traumas, because that's how I managed to turn my situation around, to moving from attracting, because oftentimes people like me, they come from one abusive relationship, guess what they do? They go into another cycle of abuse. So I had to break that cycle. How did I do that? By ensuring that I attract a high vibrational man. But you can't do that if you are not high vibrational yourself. So that means you work on yourself, you heal the traumas that are putting you down, the things that are really holding you back. You get to them and you face them. You don't suppress them. You go to the root cause and say, why am I sitting with this problem? Get to it, you know? And that's how I managed to do it. And that's how I also speak about it in the book, to say, you need to know about purpose. You need to understand what is your purpose. Because when you get into that journey of purpose, you then get attracted to the things that are aligned with the purpose.
That's it.
So my husband and I, my current husband, I always say that we were dating at the time, but he was unhealed, I was unhealed. Only when we started healing, I always say to people actually, say, I woke up, not even in any relationship, by the time I went to bed, I had a fiance. It's because of the work that I had done for myself, because I was very clear and very intentional about saying, the next person who comes into my life is my husband. Oftentimes we can't speak like that as women because we are told that, oh, who are you? Who do you think you are? But you need to tell people that this is who I am and be unapologetic and fearless about it. And only then will the universe, will God give you exactly what you deserve.
Love it. You spoke about high vibrational male. I imagine there's a high vibrational female as well, you know, looking and listening to both of you. Can you maybe define that for somebody who's encountering the term for the first time? What is a low vibrational and human being, and what is a high vibrational human being, just in closing?
So basically, you know the emotions, so you need to understand, what am I feeling? Oftentimes we don't even want to engage. How am I feeling at this point? And sit with your emotions. At that point, you know that if anything is negative, you are low vibrating at that point. When you are sad, when you are angry, when you are feeling I'm not good enough, all those things pull you down. And life is all about vibrations. When you understand that you attract who you are, not, oh, I'm dreaming about being in the States. No, you can dream it, but if your current state of being is low, you're not going to attract that. So how do you do that? Through meditation. For me specifically, I take myself into a space of, you know, getting to understand who is Mpo. Get into a relationship with God. Get into a relationship with yourself. Get to know you better. I always say that you need to be in a relationship with yourself first before you start looking for another relationship.
Sure, quite a mouthful, and thank you very much. I think our viewers have learned a lot from the two of you, that you can come from a place where things are broken, and then you as a human being come full circle and find happiness To you at home, you've heard what our guests have to say when it comes to trauma that exists in many relationships. And some of us sit way longer than we need to because we haven't found the courage within ourselves to choose ourselves and prioritize ourselves. And that is what we hope to show you when we bring guests that have lived experiences on Mjolo with Refiloe. Now, that is all we have time for this week. Catch us the same time, same place next week. Hi, Beboroko. Thank you.